Hello, and a very warm welcome to Interreg Europe's online networking event dedicated to Smarter Europe. Welcome. My name is Miia Itänen. I'm from the Interreg Europe Joint Secretariat, and I will guide you through today's session. I am by no means alone. There's already 200 of you in the room, so very warm welcome to all of you. And there's a team behind the scenes helping me out. You'll meet some of them on camera. You'll see some of them in the chat, and there's many others helping with the technical logistics of this session. This is intended for you. Our purpose today is to help you network, find partners, and start thinking about new project ideas for Interreg Europe's second call for project proposals. A little update in the very beginning. The call itself will open next year in March, on the 15th of March. So right now we are preparing and getting ready to work towards the call. We will go through some basic information. We're going to talk about Smarter Europe, what that means, what kind of activities we hope to see, what kind of activities the European Commission hopes to see. But most of all, we want to hear what you plan to do to work towards a Smarter Europe. We will also be taking some of your questions. We will also be sharing some project ideas, discussing those in little groups. But the real purpose today is for you to meet and network with each other. Let's get going. Type a quick message in the chat. Let us know where you're joining from and what you expect from today's session. In the meantime, while you do that, I will take you through the agenda of the day. We're going to start with this very short introduction, and then we'll have two speakers for this first block. The session itself is divided in two parts, and as the first part, we will first meet Tomislav Pinter from DG Regio in the European Commission, who will talk about how to improve capacity for innovation in the member states and regions. So going into SMART as a policy objective and how the European Commission is looking at it. Then we will dive a little bit deeper into what SMART means for Interreg Europe, and you will meet Kristaps, Rocans, one of our policy officers, who will take you through our expectations, some of the requirements for partnerships, how to work towards building a partnership, and we'll take some of your questions. That will wrap up our first hour, which will also be recorded. After that, we open the floor to you. And the second part of this session is dedicated to sharing project ideas and networking. We have already received some project ideas from you. You'll get a quick overview of those. And we'll also open the floor for additional ideas. So you can talk about what you would like to do, what kind of cooperation you might be interested in, or who you would like to meet. We'll divide you into smaller groups to facilitate that discussion. And you'll have about 1 hour to network and meet. I see that the chat is doing very well. There's people from all around Europe. Hello to all of you. Nice to have so many of you here, 250 people, 260 people so far. Okay, I want to know a little bit more about you. We have a welcome poll that I want to run through before we go to our speakers. Let's kick off the poll because I want to get a sense of how much you know about Interreg Europe and what brings you here today. Some of you might already have shared a comment in the chat about your expectations, but I would really like to know what brings you here today. You'll see the poll on your screen. We'll be running a few of these throughout the session today. So let us know if you've already been in an Interreg Europe project, if you've already participated in some of our other activities, maybe been involved in the policy learning platform, or if you're really new to the program and would like to get some more information. That helps us also to shape the discussion a little bit. I see that the answers are coming in, very good. And also in terms of your expectations, I want to know if you're mostly interested to get some info about the call, or if you have a project idea that you would like to share, or if you would like to discover what other ideas there are around Europe and what your peers and partners, potential future project partners, have in mind. Or if you have another reason, if you have some other reason, feel free to share that in the chat. Most of you have already replied. I'll give you a couple more seconds to give me a reply. The answers are looking good. We have 199 replies. Who's going to be number 200? Okay, there we go. I'm going to close the poll and let you have a look at the results. We have quite a few who have some experience from Interreg Europe. Great, happy to see you again. But we also have 45% of you who are new and haven't really heard much about us. So it's good that we start from the very basics, and we're going to go through some of the key features and key elements of what makes an Interreg Europe project and what we as a program are all about. In terms of your expectations, I see that 80%, 81% of you are interested in getting more info about the call. 4%, 10 people, 9 people have a project idea to share. Excellent. And 64%, 130 people are looking forward to learning more about the project ideas of others. So I think we're going to have some nice discussions later on today. There's a couple who also had another reason, so do post that in the chat. All right, that gives me a little bit of a sense of who's in the room. We will be using chat. As you see, the chat is very busy. That's a tool for you. And that's a channel for you to share your updates, comments, ideas, thoughts throughout the session. We will also be using Slido, because seeing that you're interested in information, I expect you to have some questions as well. If you have questions, help us out and put the questions in Slido, because that way it is easier for us to address them. We have a team working in writing, answering them by typing, and we'll cover a few of those after the presentations. I think that covers the basics. Whew, that's a lot of housekeeping, but we're almost ready to get going. So the first hour of this session will be recorded. You'll have access to all the presentations, material, and questions later. When we get to networking, that's going to happen only live, because you cannot network unless you're in the same space. And let's enjoy this moment together. Let's make good use of our time. So stick around for the networking part after these presentations as well. All right, let's get going. I promised we're going to be talking about SMART. It is time to see what the European Commission thinks about Smarter Europe. We have Tomislav Pinter here from DG Regio with us, who will tell you more, and we will be taking questions after this. So type your questions in Slido, and Tomislav, I give the floor to you.
Thank you, everybody, dear Interreg colleagues. Hello from Brussels. So in my next presentation, I will have a chance, hopefully, to say a few words about importance of innovation in the broader sense for the competitiveness of Europe and its regions. Then I will focus on the importance of smart specialization and interregional cooperation. Here I will present our new S3 community of practice. And then I will finish with what is, I believe, the most interesting thing for you, invitation to pursue the process and participate in the so-called Interregional Innovation Investments Instruments, I3 instrument. So we can start. Next slide, please. As I'm coming from DG Regio, Smart and Sustainable Unit, in the past months and more than a year, we've been dealing with assessments of partnership agreements and programs for 21-27 period. we are aware that cohesion policy remains one of the most important financial instruments to finance innovation in the European member states. And here are some questions. I'm not sure that we will have time to answer all this today in my presentation or later, but just something to think about. So reflecting on our work and assessment of these partnership agreements and programs, these are the questions that I believe are very, very important and up to date. So, for example, we all know that the EU is a global leader in research in many fields, and that well-performing innovation systems are, however, found only in some of EU regions. And it's very important that the diffusion of top R&D results across economic sectors and EU borders, and that transformation is also important into innovation and marketable products and services. That is basically a key for EU economy. It is also important to improve innovation performance. However, Europe's innovation divide is still here. While certain regions have made significant progress to catch up, many regions, less developed regions, are still lagging behind in terms of their innovation investments, capacity, and performance. So, linking research, businesses, civil society in interactive innovation process should, we believe, help to drive a more effective innovation policy and to exploit research outputs more quickly. That's why we think it's very important that regions understand innovation in a broader sense. And the main policy objective for the moment for us is to focus investments in research and innovation, digitalization, SME competitiveness skills, digital connectivity. That's all what these new programs are all about. Okay, next slide. From the cohesion policy perspective, setting these clear objectives for EU investments and financing should be considered under the policy objective that we call a more competitive and smarter Europe. Investments under this policy objective should focus on the smart specialization priority areas identified and developed in the process of so-called entrepreneurial discovery process. This is a regulatory requirement for investments under SO 1.1 and SO 1.4, but also a strong recommendation for specific objective 1.2, digitalization, and 1.3, sustainable growth and competitiveness of SMEs and job creation in SMEs. Next slide. So to conclude this first part, these are some of the main highlights that we think are important, and some things that or reasons why we were not so satisfied with the first version of partnership agreements and programs. For us, it's very important that the focus is, unlike in past programming periods where the focus was on building up public research capacities, now we think it's very important to support research and innovation activities that will promote innovative and smart economic transformation. It's also very important to have a place-based approach and market orientation of research and innovation activities. Why skills? Skills development should be considered as integral part of the national or regional smart specialization strategies. And the main goal here is to help cities, regions, and member states in designing and implementing ambitious skills policies for smart specialization. Next slide. And here we come to thematic smart specialization platforms. This is one of the first instruments that we have in our hands. Starting in 2015, the European Commission services launched free thematic smart specialization platforms. So it's not only DG Regio, it's DG Mare, Agri, NR, DG Grow, DG RTD. Basically, in a nutshell, these smart specialization platforms represent the set of instruments to support the bottom-up collaboration along the value chains and across the EU. They offer interactive and participatory environment. They provide tailored advice, and they help regions to establish link with businesses, researchers, and civil society. We are very happy that with the help of DG Mare, we established a new platform focusing on sustainable blue economy this year. And for the moment, I think it's even more than 208 regions registered now, coming from 19 member states and even some non-EU countries. Next slide. So to help these thematic smart specialization platforms, but not only to them, but to help the S3 community as a whole, this year, more precisely last month, we started with the official kickoff of the S3 community of practice. The role of S3 community of practice is to ensure integrated support system to all S3 practitioners at both regional and national and of course European level. This should be a main point of contact for the community of S3 practitioners, and we believe that it will engage the S3 stakeholders to interact. We will operate the S3 community of practice website, social media, organize different events for S3 community. And the main reason behind is to ensure the flow and accessibility of information and knowledge of S3 generated through either analytical, advisory, or technical support. We will also have an expert database. Next slide. So as I said, we will have S3 community of practice website, also a secretariat that you can always call. We will have every year either one S3 conference or S3 forum. So that will be an opportunity for stakeholders to network, to interact about latest policy developments, to exchange information and good practices, something that I believe we all need after this COVID period. We will also have 3 S3 working groups related to the S3 enabling condition on innovation diffusion, industrial transition, and interregional cooperation, and of course S3 expert group that will consist of leading S3 experts and academics. Next slide. And I believe this is the most interesting part of the presentation today. Similar to your call, we under I3 instrument have set up different calls that will, in a nutshell, complement what Horizon Europe did, and it will also complement other mainstream ERDF national programs. And here we see a connection with Interreg. It's under the Article 13 of the ERDF regulation. We want to focus this I3 instrument to close to market deployment. So projects that are focusing on activities in interregional consortia that are ready to go to the market. Basically, what we want to do with this, we want to tailor this instrument into the specific cohesion policy context. Next slide. The basic idea behind I3 instrument is commercialization and scaling up of innovation projects. We are doing this in quadruple helix with researchers, with businesses, civil society, and public administration. We are doing this with the support from European Innovation Council and SME Executive Agency, EISMEA. And for the moment, so for this financial period, we have 570 million euros available. Next slide. We want to focus on investments in companies from TRL 6 to 9 to accelerate, as I said, the market uptake and commercialization in S3 priority areas. We are focusing on productive investments, on demonstration, on piloting, and we are doing this in a way to actually, with your help, with the help of consortia that will also redistribute the grant to final beneficiaries, for example, through cascade funding. Next slide. And for the moment, in last year, we published 2 calls dedicated to what we call Strand 1 and Strand 2A. Strand 1 with the focus on interregional innovation projects in shared smart specialization areas to more developed regions, and the other one to less developed regions. And what we are going to publish now in December is the 3rd call dedicated to capacity building for less developed regions. And thematic areas are broad. It's digital transition, green transition, and smart manufacturing. And for the moment, what we saw from the first calls, because we have cut-off dates already behind us, green transition followed by digital transition were areas with the most interest. Next slide. And as I said, what we are going to publish in December is a 3rd call this year dedicated to the capacities of less developed regions to implement the interregional dimension. Here we have 2 sets of activities, core activities for ecosystem building and connection. This is more for public institutions, managing authorities, development agencies, regional agencies, but also we have activities such as supporting the identification of investment projects. This is more for consortia, for those partners on the quadruple helix that still want to develop their project ideas to be ready to apply for our main calls that we will continue to publish throughout the next year. We also have support activities such as benchmarking, such as networking and staff exchange schemes. So in a way, I want to finish this with the call, with the invite for all of you to apply. The I3 instrument is really here about to answer regions' needs to accelerate the transfer of research results into the market. And with these 2 calls already behind us from Strand 1 and Strand 2A, I believe that we see quite a lot of interest in this instrument already. Next slide. If you are interested in these calls and the coming calls, either this one that will be published in December or the following calls in the next year, here are some useful links, either from EISMEA webpage or our webpage. We recently published an article about the I3 instrument in our magazine Panorama, so you can read this as well, and you can always come back either to us or to EISMEA if you want to find out more about this instrument. So I believe that's all from my side. Thank you, and I'm ready to answer your questions.
Thank you, Tomislav, for this overview. I think it gives an idea of just how many different possibilities there are within Smarter Europe and the smart topics. We were asking for audience questions through Slido, and there is indeed one. So I want to start with a question from the audience. As we saw in the beginning, there are quite a few newcomers or people who might have less experience with cooperation in this context. And there was a question of what this S3 community is. How would you summarize it very briefly in a nutshell for somebody who's new to the S3 world?
Well, for the moment, we have 38 partnerships. These are quadruple helix actors, so public institutions, regional agencies, companies, SMEs, of course, that are gathered around specific initiative, and they are working in these so-called platforms for a number of years. But now we wanted to enlarge this community of these 38 partnerships and 4 platforms with even broader approach. So S3 community for us is a community of all S3 practitioners. So not only those involved in these partnerships, but also people that are responsible for implementation of all different S3 activities in their regions and countries.
We also have some more call and project specific questions. I think we're not going to go into the details with those at the moment. Tomislav, you're most welcome to comment further in the chat. But as with our call, I know that more information about these I3 possibilities and the full details will be available later. You said that your call is launching in December. Our call is launching in March, and we'll have full terms of references and additional details available in due time. We are going to talk about partnerships a little bit later, and maybe just a concluding question to you, Tomislav. Thinking about Interreg Europe and interregional cooperation, thinking about smart specialization and the EU Commission perspective, let's say the big European challenges, where do you see the biggest potential of this kind of interregional exchange and transfer in contributing to these goals?
Well, let me go back to the Article 13 ERDF from the ERDF. Indeed, we see many complementarities with Interreg projects. So these are projects, these are consortia, these are actors that already work together. And here we are with available funds for them to continue their activities, to go to the market. We are here to help them, especially those coming from less developed regions, those that want to start maybe a completely new European value chain. They're all more than welcome to continue their activities that they already had under Interreg. They're free to go to I3 instrument and to apply. So,
all right.
That's it.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. Tomislav, I would also encourage you to take a quick look at the chat. You'll stay with us for a little bit longer, and there are some indeed interesting comments there as well. So let's keep the discussion going. I want to invite our second speaker to join me. He's my colleague from the Joint Secretariat, Kristaps. He's one of our policy officers, and I want to start going a little bit deeper into the world of interregional cooperation specifically and Interreg Europe in particular. So let's go through some of the basics of how Interreg Europe as a program works and what kind of projects and partnerships we are looking forward to helping you build and establish. Kristaps, over to you.
Good morning, everybody. It's my pleasure to be here and to introduce you the basics of the program that's called Interreg Europe. And we're going to touch upon also the insights from the first call. And we will speak about the new call that you are all interested about here. So just to show the big picture, Interreg Europe is one of many Interreg programs. As you can see, there are more than around 100 programs in the whole Europe covering almost 8 billion ERDF funding, and we are part of the Strand C Interregional, and Strand C has dedicated around 500 million euros, and the big part of it is dedicated for Interreg Europe. And the big difference between, let's say, transnational and cross-border programs and Interreg Europe is that we are covering actually the whole Europe. We cover all member states and include also Switzerland and Norway. And yes, as I said, for the new period, the total budget, the ERDF budget for the program is almost 400 million euros. And we are covering 6 topics in line with, of course, the policy objectives of the cohesion policy: smart, green, connected, social, citizens, and governance. Today, we're going to focus on smart, and there's going to be more events, of course, as you know, perhaps covering other topics. Yes, and the rationale of the program is, well, quite simple. We are here to support you in your endeavors to improve regional development policies. Through identification of good practices, to the capacity building of involved individuals and organizations, through sharing of good practices and transferring good practices from one region to another. And yes, the program is primarily dedicated to the policymakers, to the policy relevant authorities, to the ministries, regional authorities, municipalities, etc. But we also allow other players to be involved, universities, cluster organizations, industry associations, etc. Everybody has, let's say, a different co-funding rates, and we're going to cover it later as well. And the focus is indeed on the exchange of experience between regions, between organizations, between different policymakers to the greater benefit. Please. And yes, the program covers 2 main actions. One, and the big part, is projects, and the second is post-learning platform. And today we're going to focus more about the projects. And of course, the project in the scope of Interreg Europe, similar to any other Interreg program, is of course the project implemented by the consortia. And the project is there, let's say, to be funded for a limited time and involves several organizations. And we're going to talk about projects later. And the platform is an additional tool, a second pillar of the program, that allows capitalization of all the knowledge that we have gathered, all the good practices, all the information, and the platform services and the information available on the platform, such as policy briefs, good practices, etc. That is available not only for the people and organizations engaged in the projects, but for everybody in Europe. So we really encourage you to look on our website and see what different platform services you can apply for, such as peer reviews, etc. Next, please. And so, focus on the projects. The main features of the projects in Interreg Europe is, of course, to improve policy instruments, to reach positive policy changes in the participating regions. And we do it through activities mainly focused on exchange of experience and capacity building of organizations involved and individuals involved, and through identification of good practices. So we encourage you to find out what are the best, let's say, policy implementation practices in one region, and to transfer them, if possible, to another region. So we have this European added value of the projects as well. And for the new program, the duration of project is set for 4 years. So 3 years of core phase, within which we want to see policy change achieved, and 1 year of follow-up phase or monitoring phase, where we want to see you monitoring the achieved policy changes. Next, please. And yes, since we're here today to build partnerships, to build meaningful new connections, who are eligible? Of course, please look in the program manual. You're going to see very detailed information. But basically, public authorities, as I said, regional authorities, ministries, municipalities, public law bodies, such as, let's say, sectorial agencies, universities, and private non-profit bodies. It could be NGOs like cluster organizations or industry associations or chambers of commerce. And really important thing is that we want to see the policy relevance of the partnership, since this program is dedicated for the policy improvements. So the core criteria, eligibility criteria, is that policy responsible authorities must be involved in the project. For at least 50% of the policy in the instruments addressed, they have to be involved as partners. And for the rest, you have to involve the responsible authorities as associated policy authorities. Just to briefly tell you what we mean by that, is that if the partner, for example, university, is who is not responsible for the policy instrument, is addressing the policy instrument, then they have to involve this ministry, for example, who is responsible for the policy instrument, and they have to be actively engaged in the project, to the stakeholder group, to the declaration, and they will be involved through the budget of the participating partner. And again, you can read more about this in the program manual. And of course, similarly to the previous program, we expect that each participating region has a dedicated stakeholder group set up and is involved in the project. And in stakeholder groups, you can have, let's say, broad spectrum of factors, also including private bodies like companies or technology centers and etc. Next, please. And yes, since this is a European level program, and this is a new feature for the current new program, we are looking forward to see very balanced partnerships. Balanced in the terms, of course, of geographical coverage as well. And as you can see in the map, we have 4 areas to be covered by the project. And you can see these divided: north, east, south, and west. That means that in every project, we want to see all of these regions involved. And we also want to see that the mix between less developed and more developed and transition regions is also ensured. And in only very specialized cases, we would see, let's say, that all the partners are coming from more developed areas. But basically, we want to see that there is a mix of different regions, because we want to ensure policy learning and developments in line with the objectives of the cohesion policy. Next, please. And yes, briefly to touch on co-financing rates. So 80% ERDF for all public or public equivalent bodies, and 70% for ERDF for private non-profit EU partners. And in case of Norwegian partners, you can apply for 50% Norwegian funding. And for the Swiss partners, you have to contact your own authorities in Switzerland to manage the funding for the Swiss partners. And now we're going to speak a bit about the first call that we are in the process of currently assessing the applications. And we're going to give you some insights already from the first call, even though we still don't have a result. And probably it will give you some ideas where we are with the new program. So we closed the first call this May, and we received more than 100 proposals, so 134 to be precise, and more than 1,000 partners coming from all the partner states. And as you can see, they're covering all the topics, but especially, of course, green, social, and smart as the concentration principle as well. So majority of the project applications are covering these topics. And the average budget that partners were requesting was around 1.4 million per project. And as you can see, in total, it's almost 200 million euros funding requested. So quite a lot for the first call as well. And some lessons learned, not to go into too much detail, since, as I said, we're still in the process of assessing the proposals, is that what we can share is that looking for the new call, please ensure that the partnership really goes beyond transnational cooperation areas. For example, MED areas covers also Slovenia, Bulgaria, and part of France. So there are some also changes in these. So not to keep the whole partnership within, let's say, Baltic Sea region or a Mediterranean region. Also, please pay attention to status of policy responsible authority to make sure that you are really, if you are addressing the policy instruments, that you are really in charge of the policy instrument, or if you are involving a policy responsible authority as associated policy responsible authority, then make sure that they are, again, really in charge of the project, because we have seen in some cases that it's not really the case, and it can, well, the damage for the evaluation of the project. And indeed, please select carefully the policy instruments addressed. Be specific. If you are addressing specific topic within the SMART, for example, digitalization, please make sure that also the policy instruments that you're addressing also cover the digitalization, but not, for example, I don't know, food security or circular economy. And also very important criteria is please ensure that at least one policy instrument covered by the partnership is indeed investment for growth and jobs goal program, which is a big change from the previous program where we requested to at least 50% to be part of the ERDF programs. Now we need only one, but it has to be there. And yes, the second call, as Miia already told, we are opening it on in the 15th of March, and it's going to be closed on June. And we expect decisions to be made by the end of next year, by end of 2023. And indeed, you're going to receive much more detailed information through the application pack, which will be available early next year. Terms of reference, etc. All the information is going to be there, so you are not missing anything already. And yes, since we are covering today the SMART, the corresponding specific objectives that the projects also under this priority should address should be involved around research and innovation, of course, digitalization of citizens, companies, organizations, and public authorities, sustainable growth and competitiveness of SMEs, skills for smart specialization, and of course, digital connectivity. So these are, let's say, areas within which the projects addressing policy objective SMART should focus on. And indeed, please pay attention to the fact that we have more than 250 projects already approved in the current, or let's say the previous program. And you can see all of them through our website and through their dedicated websites. So these 250 projects are tackling a lot of issues, and a majority of the topics that I just talked about: digitalization, research infrastructure, etc. So when you are preparing your proposal, please check also what's currently already on the table, what's currently being addressed, what the projects are doing, what kind of policy instruments are being addressed, etc. And ensure that your project has an innovative character. And by innovative character, we mean that we do not expect the same partnerships that implemented the project now also continuing. We want to see new partnerships, we want to see diverse partnerships, new topics tackled, see how probably your new idea is contributing to something that has been already developed in a different way. Maybe you implement new methodologies, etc. We want to see how your project differs from what's already being funded by the program. And you can, as I said, you can still check all the currently approved projects, and all the information is, of course, available through the website and the link here. And yes, just to show you the diversity of the topics covered by the current projects, you can see we have selected just 4, but you can see that we have projects, for example, aerial uptake that's addressing drones, that's addressing policies, supporting development of the drones, technologies for the drone deployment. So very, very specific thing, and we want you to be specific. We have a project thematic for Europe that's addressing very relevant topic currently, of course, medical technologies and the policies supporting deployment of these technologies and R&D in a sphere of medical technologies. We have 4.0 or 40 ready project addressing industry 4.0 and capacities of the SMEs to engage and implement, these new technologies in their production. So also through policy improvements. And Start Easy, which is one of the projects addressing SMEs, especially startups, and addressing policies supporting startup creation and startup facilitation. So very diverse topics covered, but all within the topic of the SMART. And well, that's it for now. And we're going to talk a bit later about application packs now.
Indeed. Kristaps is going to continue with some detailed info on, or practical info on, how we help you prepare your application. But we thought here would be a good moment to stop and see if there are any questions. And indeed, there are some. I'm glad to see that we have a very active audience today, and we have been receiving questions through Slido, and we have also been answering to those questions in Slido. Our chat team is replying directly in Slido to those. But Kristaps, you talked about the need for a broad geographic coverage. You talked about the need to be innovative, to take a look at the projects that have already been implemented and draw some inspiration from there and see what new you can bring into the mix. And you also talked about the policy instruments a little bit. And one of the questions here is, what kind of policy instruments would be relevant in the case of SMART projects? Can you maybe give an example of what this might be?
Well, in Interreg Europe program, when you speak about the policy instrument, it can be any means of public intervention at basically any level, at the local level, at regional level, or national level. So it can be national level policy, for example, addressing digitalization of the industry. It can be a local municipal strategy addressing startup facilitation. It could also be, of course, the ERDF program, a specific objective focusing, let's say, on investments in research infrastructure. So it's a very broad spectrum here, and we are not limiting you to type of policy instrument. We want to see that the policy instruments are addressing the topic that you're addressing, the issue that you're addressing. For example, if your project is addressing startup creation, then the policy instrument should also address startups, should address, let's say, funding or co-funding instruments for the startups or regulation for the startup creation, etc. I hope it answers the question.
Thank you. I also want to ask one more of a general question, because we had some questions about eligibility, what type of associations, organizations, institutions can participate, what type of co-funding rates apply to different types of partners. All this was briefly mentioned in the presentation. There is more information in our program manual, which has been linked in the chat, and this will also be outlined in the terms of reference once those are available. So I don't want to go into the specifics or details, but rather thinking about it from the perspective of this networking event. What type of connections would you encourage people to establish? Who should they be looking for? Next door neighbors, somebody else, different types of organizations, institutions? What kind of connections should be built? What is a good basis to start thinking about a project?
Yes. Well, indeed, the recommendation is to have around 5 to 8 regions covered by the consortia. And as I said previously, the core, let's say, core audience of the program is, of course, policymakers, ministries, managing authorities, intermediary bodies, sectoral agencies, etc., municipalities, regional authorities. So these are your number one, first most important, let's say, target group. But we still can include, as I said, also not-for-profit bodies and bodies regulated by public law, such as universities, and we can involve cluster organizations or technology centers, especially we speak about the smart. As a partners and also maybe as advisory partners. What we cannot have in the program is we cannot have SME or private company being a partner. So SMEs or large companies, for that matter, cannot receive ERDF funding from the program. They cannot be involved in the program as a partner. They can be, however, involved in the stakeholder groups. For example, when you set up a stakeholder group in your region, you can involve companies, you can involve business incubators, you can involve research centers in the activities and stakeholder group activities, and you can also, let's say, for example, take them on the peer review exchange to another region and cover, let's say, their costs to the external expertise costs of the partner. But they cannot be involved directly as a partners. But they can benefit from the improvements that you achieve through the policy change, of course, especially when you speak about the projects dedicated really to supporting SMEs, for example.
All right, and just a very quick specification maybe to that. Is there a minimum or a maximum number? What kind of a group to set up?
Well, we have to have at least 3 countries involved. Have at least 3 countries involved, but as I said, the recommended is around 5 to 8 regions, and then we can go further. So we see around 10 partners, for example. But then it's up to you. But we don't want to see really large consortiums because interregional exchange experience is quite demanding process. So really focus more on the quality, not on the quantity. Having really tight partnerships addressing specific issues, everybody bringing their competences and their policy relevance to the table is more important than having very big, consortia in the program.
All right, so be focused, be specific, be a little bit selective, but aim for a broad coverage and have the right type of institutions involved. Thank you, Kristaps. I said that we would talk a little bit about the assistance as well, and let's go into that. How do we help people find these partners? What else, apart from these types of networking events or other opportunities to meet, do we provide for people to help find partners and prepare their projects?
Yes, and please, next slide. So these are the tools that are at your disposal now, and there's going to be some very specific tools that you can use when the call is actually launched and when you have the full application pack available to you. For example, already now you can check your project relevance using a self-assessment tool. All of these things, all of these tools are available on our website. So this self-assessment tool is very, very simple kind of survey that you can check your project idea already now to see if it fits the program, if it fits the rationale of the program, if it fits the objectives of the program. You can also get inspired by looking at all the 250 approved projects currently running, and we really encourage you to do it and to see what has been already done. Maybe if you think that you are addressing something very, very new, but somebody else had already done it. So please look at the projects that are being implemented currently. You can share your project idea on a website. You can share your project idea today. You're going to have dedicated networking session afterwards. And you can share this project idea as well also on the website. And other partners, potential partners can see it and possibly contact you. And you can also look for relevant partners through the website again. And when we're going to actually launch the call, you will have dedicated instruments for the direct feedback from us, from the JS, from the Joint Secretariat. You will be able to apply to the written response from us regarding your idea, to have a feedback on your idea, how it fits the program, or we're gonna have a phone conversation or a video conference like this around half an hour to discuss your project idea. So this is gonna be really tailor-made support to you, close to the submission of the application. And indeed, you're going to have the full package available to you, the full terms of reference and the full information when we launch a call. But already now you have a program manual, and we really encourage you to study it closely, to look it closely, because all the information is basically covered in the program manual. And this is the core document of the program. So eligibility criteria, all requirements are there already. So you can see it already today. And do not forget also about your national points of contact. You can also approach national points of contact, and you can find them on our website, and you can ask for their support and their assistance. And you can also check with them regarding the policy relevance of the authority you're involving to see if, for example, you are really the dedicated policy responsible authority, or the authority you're involving is the real policy responsible authority. So please also go to this advice as well. And yes, I guess we're gonna finish this part with some tips for successful project preparation. Is the first of all, read the program manual. Read it carefully, read it more than once, and you're gonna find a lot of the answers already there. They're written there. Use the assistance tools that we provide. Use a self-assessment tool. It's really easy to use. It will give you very quick benchmark. Please contact us when the call is open. Ask for our feedback. We're going to give it to you. We're going to discuss your idea, and you're going to be able to fit it more in the frame of the program before you actually submit it. And indeed, join our events. It's only the first event in a row of several events coming. And yes, take care in being specific regarding eligibility criteria. When you're actually submitting the projects, check all the documents, check all the declarations, that everything is there, that you are not missing any eligibility issue. And of course, you can also read the program manual about quality criteria. And since we have two-step evaluation, only those projects that pass the eligibility check will be assessed to the quality assessment. So make sure that your project proposal is eligible, and then if it's a good quality. And for today, the main tip is that please develop new and meaningful partnerships, develop new ideas together, and bring good partners together in a consortium, good and policy relevant partners. So this is my tip for the day. Thank you.
Thank you, Kristaps. Again, a very good overview of the plentiful support that is available. I just want to remind you that you can keep submitting your questions to Slido. Our chat team has been doing an excellent job giving you replies. So go there and have a look at what others have been asking and what kind of answers have been shared there. I will not go into it with Kristaps anymore as such, because the questions are more or less covered and you see the replies there in writing. But Kristaps, maybe any final tips? You already gave quite a few in your presentations. Anything else you would like to tell people before we let them get into the networking part of today's session?
Well, the main tip probably is for the networking session, especially if you're looking for new partners. And if you're not experienced in Interreg Europe program before, is that look at the organizations that have the interests and needs that are fitting your interests and needs. Because in a project, you're going to be working together, if it's successful, for 4 years. You're going to be actually working together with different organizations together for 4 years. And so look at those organizations and then those specific people that you are ready to work with for years, and that share the similar needs, that share the similar focus areas, and really build the project as coherent as possible. So it's not just a compilation of different interests, but it's also a joint interest of the whole partnership, and it has a joint benefit for the cohesion policy as such. That's it, I guess now.
Yes, thank you. That concludes our part with presentation. Thank you, Tomislav. Thank you, Kristaps. Thank you, everyone in the audience who has been very actively asking questions. Now, we've shared the little bits of inspiration and background information that we have for today from our side. It is time to give the floor to you. The second half of this event, from more or less from 11 to 12, we are going to focus on sharing your ideas, helping you find partners, and give you opportunities to meet and network with each other. There are 330 people in this session, all of them interested in smarter Europe, possibly interested in new projects. So an excellent opportunity for you to pick at least a few contacts to develop further ideas and possibilities for cooperation. So make good use of it. Before I take you through the basics of how things are going to work, I just want to launch another quick poll and get some of your inputs. Are you going to stay for the networking? Did you come here just for info? Can we expect you to see you for the next hour or so? That's a simple yes or no question. If you're not sure, that's fine as well. And I would also be keen to know if you plan to use some of the other online tools that we have, some of the ones that Kristaps mentioned, and for example, the networking tables that we have been talking about or promoting as a part of this event. So we do offer a lot of other tools as well that you can use to connect with each other and find relevant partners. So just give me a sense of how many of you might be staying for the networking, how many of you might be leaving and maybe was more interested in the information only, how many of you are not going to use this excellent opportunity to meet people from really all across Europe, because there are people from so many different countries and so many different regions, different types of organizations in this session today. And are you going to use the tools that we are offering? We have about 200 replies so far. I'll give you a couple more seconds just to share your reply. You should see the poll as a pop-up on your screen. Just tick on your replies and submit. And I will close the poll now. Let's have a look at the results. So yes, about half of you, 100 people or so, are going to stay. Few of you are going to leave, and that is fine. I just remind you that the first half has been recorded. We are still being recorded, but once we start the networking, that will not be recorded. So if you want to see the project ideas, if you want to discuss with each other, you're going to have to stay. How many of you are going to use the tools? Quite a few, 69%, 145 are planning to use the online tools. And that is excellent because already by registering for this event and being here, you are part of our community. You have full access to all the tools and support that we provide. So I do encourage you to make good use of them. If you don't know yet, or if you're not making use of it, I would still check out at least some of the links that we've been sharing in the chat today and have a look at the materials shared, because they really are very helpful. The self-assessment tool gives you a very quick overview of whether you are on the right track. The community can help you find partners. Having a look at all the project ideas that have already been implemented or shared by others can be very, very valuable as you start working towards your own project. There are other networking opportunities. We have more of these events coming as well. We're going to be talking about social later this week. We'll talk about green towards the end of the month and about connected citizens and governance on the 1st of December. You also heard the word policy learning platform a couple of times today. There will be occasions and opportunities to discover what the platform has to offer on the 5th of December. So one more event to put on your list. And of course, the call launch on the 15th of March, which will happen during Europe Let's Cooperate, our Interregional Cooperation Forum, which will happen in Stockholm, Sweden on the 15th of March.